We've all tried to keep up with the Joneses at one time or another, going out and buying all the stuff that our neighbors have, even if we can't really afford it. Well, you'd think that if everyone were equal, you wouldn't need all that stuff. But some new research by INSEAD marketing professor Pierre Chandon shows that's not the case. Welcome to INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you.
So we're really talking about conspicuous consumption. It appears from your research that it's people with the least money who actually spend the most.
On conspicuous consumption, yes.
How does that work out?
Well, we know that when you don't have that much money, instead of saving it, you're going to spend it on things that will help you feel better about yourself and will, in a way, hide the lower income that you may have. And so we know this is true for any society, and especially now, that people who are at the bottom of the pyramid actually spend a bigger proportion of their budget on conspicuous consumption, which is consumption which is meant to show your rank or improve your status in the society.
It almost sounds as though it's a little bit aggressive, or it's certainly very showy. I mean, in other words, it's not food, clothing, shelter, it's bling, really.
It depends on the society. I mean, some societies you will show your status by spending on some items, in others will be other items. I've done a lot of work at INSEAD on a case study, for example, about Unilever in Brazil. And they realized that in the low-income segment of the population of the Northeast, the brand of detergent that you buy was actually a marker of status. And this, of course, has changed a lot in societies where people wash their laundry at home, where nobody knows what kind of brand you're buying. And today it would be more something like a mobile phone. Even in Brazil, actually, things are changing. So it's all relative. The status object itself changes. The need to express status remains.
We are still all recovering from subprime mortgage, people buying houses they couldn't afford, perhaps overusing credit cards, et cetera. Does this fit in to some extent with your research?
Yeah, because we know that one of the drivers of all of this spending, reckless spending, was the desire for people to improve their social status, even though they may not have had the means to do that. And the problem with social status, it's a zero-sum game. Okay, it's about the rank, and you cannot be better than one. And so that is certainly part of the explanation. And in fact, the reason why we started all of this research is related to that in a way. I had the good fortune to work with a fantastic graduate student. Her name is Nelia Ordabayeva. And as the name may sound, she is actually from Kazakhstan. And she saw that in the former Soviet Union, when there was really strict equality, still people valued a lot their rank. And as soon as they could, they splurged on conspicuous consumption. And so she and I together were interested in this idea that, well, sometimes people don't just want to be equal, and they're not happy when they've just kept up with the Joneses. Sometimes what matters more is that people want to leapfrog the Joneses. And so the decision on whether or not to invest in conspicuous consumption is not really just a question of what do you have compared to what the others have. It's also a question of how much improvement, boost in my social status, in my rank, can I get for the money that I spend. So we did a study where we asked people about the kind of expenses they would make on the garden. And it was very different if we're talking about the front yard that everybody sees, where its competition is very important, and the backyard that's just for your own enjoyment.
So they spend more on the front yard.
And they're more receptive to what others are doing in the front yard.
So it's important in terms of your social standing as to how you look. But do people have an idea of where they actually stand in terms of income or real lifestyle?
There are two answers. Number one, people know their relative rank. We did a study in the US with a representative sample of lots of households, and people know more or less if they're in the top quintile, bottom, etc. But people have no idea about the disparity of income, the true disparity. If you look, for example, at wealth, the top 20% have 83% of US wealth. And people always underestimate how big the gap is between the richest and the poorest.
Well, we know that now, especially with the March on Wall Street
Right.
going on. Is it also a question maybe of self-confidence? Does a truly confident person not care about this sort of thing, or does that not factor in enough to make a difference?
Yeah, I think it really depends on whether you derive utility mostly from your own consumption and your own enjoyment, or whether for you it's the secondary utility that's derived from how buying a product will make you stand in the distribution. And so it depends on the type of people, it depends also on the type of product, it also depends on the state of the economy. We found that in times of recession, people tend to value more the close family and fitting in and social cohesion. And when times are better, people would more value standing out.
Thank you very much, Pierre Chandon, for being with us on INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you very much, Shelley.